So kind of looking at John and Patsy announcing um, their lie. This is like a press conference for them announcing their lie detector results. Now, it took them 3 years to take this, 3 or 4 years, like I think 4 years. They took this in 2000. So about 3 or 4 years, and they took 2 sets of tests. They took one in April of 2000, and then they took, that was inconclusive. And then they took another in May, I think between May 6th and May 17th of 2000. First one was inconclusive. The second one they passed. And so on the one that they passed, which is now, they're having a press conference.
I give workshops to the FBI examiners.
These people, by the way, these people have taught at the FBI Academy in Quantico, and they've taught at the Department of Defense. My question would be, they've taken the test from the best. Why would you expect them now to go back and take an FBI test?
The intention might be that the questions were pretty soft. I mean, if the FBI were to give the test, they would probably
question? I don't think so.
Listen,
What's next? What's next? A bed of coals? You want us to walk across?
I mean, in the way they're presented and the way that they're questioned, I mean, perhaps one of
It's on videotape. It is, they can review this.
Let's take
They'd
the
like.
question or the statement.
Has anybody seen the videotape or the audio recordings of the lie detector tests that they took? Because they took one with a guy out of New Jersey. And like I said, it was inconclusive. Then they came back and got Ed Gelb out of LA or out of California. And I mean, there's been some controversy surrounding Ed. He used to be the head of the APA. And I think the thing with Ed was, he went to USC, go Trojans, you know what I'm saying? He went to USC. I think he went to UCLA, and then he went to LaSalle University. Now, the problem with LaSalle University, as they say, I haven't researched it, is that LaSalle is in Louisiana and apparently it was a diploma mill. I think now it's shut down. Could be wrong. I didn't take a look at it, but now it's shut down. They say because the FBI raided in, and basically it's one of those colleges that, just hand out diplomas. And so he got his doctorates from there. And he also took his lie detector, but, his lie detecting coursework he took from a gentleman who had also instructed I think the CIA on how to conduct lie detector tests. So this is what the Ramseys are trying to use to sort of prove their innocence and say, hey, if I use these people, these experts, I should be good to go, right? That's what they're doing. That's the argument. However, the problem with this is they've been going back and forth trying to, with BPD, trying to get on the same page about what would be acceptable. I think at the time, Steve Thomas is the detective, and there's disagreement as to the conditions of what would be acceptable to the Boulder Police Department in these lie detector tests. And I don't think that they ever were able to come together and say, we can agree on these stipulations, because I think John and Patsy, as they continue to state, the FBI uses interrogation techniques. BPD said, let's use the FBI. If you guys don't want to use us, let's use the FBI. And then John and Patsy said, no, we don't want to use them because, they like to interrogate you. And we don't think that's indicative of them wanting to get to the truth of what the case is. They just want to interrogate us.
These questions are soft. What would you ask?
Well, I'm not an FBI.
Right, but what would you ask?
I think you asked the same question in a couple of different ways.
Three different times in one test.
There would be more in-depth questions, harder questions.
What's the bottom line here? The bottom line is, did you inflict the injuries that caused the death of JonBenet? The bottom line is, do you know who killed JonBenet? The bottom line for Patsy is, because she was not excluded by handwriting analysis, did she write the ransom note? Now, once you've gotten that far on single issue tests.
This is the look that it's a look of There's concern. There's uncertainty. Because they came out hot. They came out with a little bit of an attitude. But now she's stopped and she's listening to what's being said. And her face is almost expressionless, as if she's reserving her expression or her thoughts or her opinions or her efforts to showcase how she feels until she completely agrees, or she's certain that she completely agrees with what this guy is saying.
Which have the greatest validity of any type of examination. Why are you continuing? Where are you going?
Dr. Gelb, the Boulder police are saying that they want someone who's familiar with the investigation. They would ask questions like, do you know what weapon caused the head wound? Something like that. That might throw people off guard. That's why they want someone to know the case. You obviously have.
See, now she's chomping at the bits to talk. She's got something to say. Now that she's certain that he's not going to say anything that undermines what she wants to say. And now she's conversing back and forth with Lynn Wood.
Well,
That would be an incompetent test.
Mr. Baxter will speak to that. Go ahead, please.
One of the things we depend on very much in the zone comparison test is a person to focus. It's the prioritizing of the mind to focus their psychological set either on character evaluation questions.
Now, the other person was Ed Gelb. This is Baxter. I think this is the person who taught Gelb.
We call comparison questions, or the did you questions. Now, the worst thing you can do is to put a secondary involvement question in that test series, because they may not feel comfortable with that secondary involvement question, and that will kill the responses to the comparison questions, which we depend upon to get our numerical scores. It would be the worst kind of test going.
Sir, does the FBI submit questions prior to the polygraph as well?
Submit to whom?
I understand that the questions in this particular test were submitted ahead of time. In other words, JonBenet Ramsey looked at them.
They're reviewed very carefully ahead of time.
What we're talking about is the questions are submitted at the time of the examination prior to instrumentation. Not that they're given the questions a week ahead of time. At the time the examination is conducted, all of the questions are reviewed. And if you recall earlier, I said the reason for that is that so they can focus on that which poses the greatest threat to their immediate well-being. And that's how the FBI would conduct the examination.
The sessions were videotaped?
Yes?
Or audio.
If the FBI would have done it that way, then there's no need for us to be talking about you being concerned about being interrogated. Because if the FBI would have done it this way, then what's the need for any discussion of terms and conditions? Would you take the results of a private agency? We don't need to go to a private agency. We just go to the FBI if the FBI would have done this. But apparently there's some sort of stipulation that the FBI is going to do that was off-putting to you, which is why you didn't do it. I don't understand why they're jumping up to the podium getting mad. Like this, they're acting like this is a personal attack. We are just the media. We have questions that we need to ask you, and we need answers. Y'all getting mad because we want answers to questions, and we're concerned that y'all are hiding something because we don't know what y'all said in the test. We don't know the extent to what y'all did. We don't know the extent of the preparation. I think it's pretty common that defense attorneys prepare their clients for lie detector tests. Prepare them on how to conduct themselves and things of that nature. I'll stop short of saying that defense attorneys help their clients beat the test. I'm not saying that, but there is preparation involved. And you got to think this is 3 or 4 years later. You've had time My problem with, and I was trying to look up the research, and I think it's pretty common for them to take the test twice. And I think it's pretty common for there to be a month in between the tests, because, you got scheduling conflicts, you got, trying to come up with the right stipulations for each party to agree to, and trying to find the right person to use this, that, and the third. But here's the thing. In that time period, you're constantly working with your attorney. You're constantly, now that you've been through the process, you're constantly saying, okay, I need to be prepared for this. I need to be prepared for this. And so now you are able to work on suppressing your psychological responses, your psychological, your biophysical, not only your psychological responses, but your physiological responses to certain things. You can now steady your heart rate. You can now suppress thoughts that would have, the thought that would have surprised you, you can suppress that and say, or you could, because as somebody made the point, these questions are kind of subjective the way you ask them. Because you might ask, do you know who hit you over the head? Well, I mean, I can turn around and say that there was one person behind me, and I would have to assume that just because that individual is the only person behind me, that they hit me on my head, but I don't really know. Right? And so while I may believe that that person was the one who hit me on the head because I wasn't looking, I can't say for sure. And because my mind knows that there is a reality where I can't say for sure, I can more, what's the word I'm looking for? I can be more accepting is the word I'm looking for. I can accept the fact more. I can be more accepting of the fact that I can say, hey, I legitimately don't know. And maybe I was speculating that the person behind me hit me in the head. This is the same thing I think of the questions that were being asked in this lie detector test. Somebody phrasing the questions that way. And so that's what I think they mean. Somebody said, hey man, you're throwing softball questions. And he getting mad about it. Well, that's what I think they mean by, you throwing softball questions, man. Give him some hard, like interrogate him.
Yeah.
Lynn, is there any possibility that would be released to the public?
I know we have videotape on some. I'm not sure all were videotaped in Atlanta. They were all audio taped.
They were all audio taped, and the videotapes were done on the examinations conducted in Los Angeles because I had that equipment for the examinations there. You had a question?
What exactly does the test measure? Does it measure respiration? Does it measure sweat, breathing?
It measures a number of physiological changes, such as the changes in the rate and volume of breathing, the changes in electrical conductivity, the changes in blood pressure and pulse rate, how the body impedes current.
I know y'all know you can manipulate your physiological responses by breathing steady. I know that you can manipulate your blood pressure by breathing and the pulse rate by breathing steady. How many of you have taken a test, a blood pressure test, and got one response and it's like, whoa, that's high. So let's take it again. And you regulated yourself so where the second time when they did it, it looked a little bit better. And so the person that was administering the blood pressure test said, oh man, well, I guess we have nothing to worry about. How many of you have said at the Walmart kiosk for the blood pressure, got a number, got the results back and said, hey, this is terrible. And then you said, let's take it again. And so you regulated your breathing. Look, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I have, just for the fun of it, but sitting down there regulating your blood pressure, I'll take it 3, 4, 5 times and get something different back every time. My point is, are we clear that this can be manipulated?
The galvanic skin response.
Known as galvanic skin response. And all of these various things that we measure are indices of stress.
And why do you need him? He didn't even administer the test. Why do you need Baxter? Baxter didn't even administer the test. You standing up here getting mad. Why do you need why do y'all need a whole army of people? I can understand Lynn Wood being there, but why do y'all need a whole army? Why do we even need the administrator to come out and talk? Why do we need that? We need it because people don't trust Patsy and John.
How long were these tests for the Ramseys?
Hours. Each one was a couple of hours, at least some 2 to 3 hours.
Did you ask questions?
How many questions were asked altogether?
Those take 2 or 3 hours.
You know, I don't think you understand, as I did not understand, how a polygraph examination works. I mean, I thought, like probably a lot of you thought, that they bring you into a room, they sit you down, they hook you up to all this paraphernalia, and then they say, you know, are you sitting down? Are you standing up? Are you Patsy Ramsey? Are you know? The question, I mean, this is real layman's terms, but you spend a large amount of time in basically an interrogation kind of situation. Then you're hooked up for, you know, a series of yes/no questions. This is.
So you mean a series of interrogative questions that there's no pressure because these are not FBI people? And see, that's what I'm saying. These folks are not looking for anything that the FBI would be looking for. This is why this is a problem, because you don't have to ask questions that okay, of course you could say, hey man, point. You could say, hey man, you know, we're interested in seeing whether you're lying or not. And that's it. However, if we go to the FBI might be like, hey, and that's why the Boulder Police Department, that's why BPD wanted to use the FBI, because the FBI was they understood the case. They were briefed at least a little bit on the case. And so some of those interrogative questions would have been more aligned with what we're trying to find. We don't want just some basic lie detector test. We want a test that's more aligned with what we're trying to find. We can't do anything with this. This is just a basic overview of whether somebody's lying or not. Yeah, I understand. But the way you ask the questions we would have asked different questions if it was BPD, because the BPD might say, given this evidence, is this the case? Or given this, is this the case? And you would have had more to have to respond to. You would have had to think about it. It would have jarred your physiological responses more and your psychological responses more, because now you can't manipulate off of some basic questions. Whereas here, they're not going to hit you with any hardball questions because they don't know the facts of the case.
I'm insulting the guy.
It appears that you went through this process.
We call it
But, I
pre-test
mean,
interview, not interrogation.
Okay, well, anyway, take it from me.
Yeah, I call it an interrogation.
Yeah, and then afterwards, they question again, some more, you know. So it's not just, I mean, if it were just this little 5 to 10 minute yes/no thing, it wouldn't take very long, you know. But part of the whole process, and there again, this is very lay terminology, is to, you know, get you to kind of think about what it is that you're going to be tested about.
One of the reasons that polygraph works is what we call the conditioned response theory. The theory that most of you are familiar with is the fear of detection of deception. But polygraph works because of what we call the conditioned response theory. Did you strike the blows that caused the death of so-and-so? When you're asked that question and you did not do it, you have no recall of that event, and you...
Anyways, that's the video. I'm highly annoyed now. But anyways, let me know what you think in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. And until next time, take it easy.